And good morning, everyone. This is Grant from State of Spark, and I am here. It's okay now. You're awake. It's Friday, and I'm super pumped. I'm not just super pumped because it's Friday, TGIF and all that mess. No. I mean, in some ways, maybe you've made it through a great week and a productive week, and so we're happy about that. I'm usually just getting fired up by Friday, if I may be honest, although I'm a little tired this morning, if you can't tell by the frog in my throat. But why I am excited this morning is that it's fun with Thinking Friday, and I love fun with Thinking Friday. I love it. I love it because we actually cover mental models that you can use in your daily life, in your business, to think better, to be better for the people around you and be better for the people you love, to be present and aware. So yes, it's fun with Thinking Friday, which is why I'm so pumped that it's Friday. So as usual, with Fun with Thinking Friday, we've got, and you're getting a two for today. You're getting a 2-for-1 mental model day. We're actually going to cover two separate mental models that I think you can make use of. And combined, we're going to address leadership and the accelerated marketplace, and basically how to disrupt yourself. But before any of that craziness, you know I've got a cup of gratitude. This is a warm, toasty cup, and the only thing that tastes as good as gratitude is that first morning cup of coffee. So we're going to have coffee together. We're going to share some gratitude, and I want to hear in the comments today why you are grateful today. I want to hear from you what you're grateful for today as we do this cup of gratitude together, and then we're going to cover some interesting other news. I hope it's interesting. I find it extraordinarily interesting, and that other news is news that has anything to do with anything other than the craziness going on in the standard news cycle. So we're trying to cover other news. Give me some other news, Grant, not just the same crud about COVID or the election or any of that mess. So we're going to cover that. But first, here is a cup of gratitude. Here we go. What I am absolutely grateful for today, absolutely grateful for this today, is growth and friends and people in my life who are readers. Readers are leaders. Get it in your head. Readers are leaders. And by readers, I'm actually starting to use this term more broadly in terms of self-educators. And the reason I qualify that is I know, and you and I both know that we can actually be readers by studying. We can actually study. And so YouTube, I study on YouTube for, hours every week, where I'll actually just bring up YouTube videos and rapidly educate on taxonomies or vocab for things that I need to know. I had to pronounce someone's name anew the other day, and I did it on YouTube. So when I say that for this morning's cup of morning gratitude, I'm grateful for growth and people in my life who are self-educators. What I'm saying is I love being surrounded by self-educators. And here's specifically and vulnerably what I mean. There was a rough patch with a collaborator or collaborators within one of our businesses that we had about a month or so ago. I was pleased to discover in an encounter we had recently that they had continued their growth. I had continued my growth. And when we came to the table, I won't say we were necessarily over it. You don't just want people to brush rough patches aside. But what was the prominent message was, I'm still learning, you're still learning. Let's exchange ideas. And that's what we did. We sat across the table from one another and we exchanged ideas. And it was such a massage to my soul. So this morning, this cup is to you anonymous people who continue to grow and continue to read, and that we can come together with that shared ground. Do you have someone like that in your life? I'd love to hear about it. Share, comment, share people in your life who you're grateful that they're growers and that they're constant readers. Here's to you for our morning cup of gratitude. All right, moving on to other news. And this other news is really interesting. Other news number one. Did you know that having friends can actually reduce physical pain? Hear me on this. Actually having friends can reduce actual physical pain. So on a longitudinal study, I think I'm saying that word right. In a longitudinal study, they studied about 12,000 people, just over 12,000 people. And what they found was that for those who had stronger and deeper social connections and networks, they reported a reduction in physical pain over time. And what this amounts to is they're attributing this to several factors. One of these factors is that having friends actually gets you out more. So you go to coffee with your friends. I go to coffee with James about once a week when we get coordinated. Sometimes we sleep in or we miss or we have to juggle our schedules. But in general, we go to coffee almost every single week. And that gets us out. We're up at 6 a.m. We're up earlier. We're moving about. We're getting coffee earlier. And that means that we're also sitting with one another and walking. So the idea is with friends, you actually might move more, be more active, be involved in things more. And so this is the main factor, that having strong social networks and deeper social networks and deeper relationships, you get out more. So make more friends. Here's the other component, though, and this is the component that I want to drill home to you lovely Spark citizens out there. Having friends has an exchange of information at a more rapid clip. Having deeper friendships, deeper social connections, or a wider social network makes the transmission of information happen. Think of a bee colony who the antennas touch and they share information about the pollen they received and where to get the best pollen from, how to get the best honey. The human beehive has transmission of information. We've been talking actually a lot about the accelerated marketplace and how for AI and artificial intelligence, the fuel for artificial intelligence that drives it is data. And as we get involved in the accelerated marketplace to be a leader in the accelerated world, we have to actually be able to not run away from this information, this flow of information, and not grind or die and just try to get on top of the information. We have to float above the information, be able to synthesize large volumes of information. Well, in this longitudinal study, this is playing out on a very individual health scenario. And what they were saying was this: someone who was dealing with pain talked to more people, got more ideas from another mental model called optionality. We've dealt with that in another Fun with Thinking Friday. But there's a flow of information of, hey, have you tried this remedy? Hey, have you tried this affordable doctor? Hey, have you gotten this affordable health care? And on average, of the 12,000 respondents, those who had tighter social networks actually had lower physically reduced pain, not because of some woo-woo reason, but because of some very real passing of information. Get with the times. Here, let me actually give you this link so that those who think I'm just making this up, I am not just making this up, my friends. Boom, there you go. There is the link, and you can see that I'm not making that up. Here we go. A painting has been returned to the rightful heirs of a family. You see, 87 years ago in Germany, Nazis were withdrawing from Berlin at the time, and they stole a painting. That painting was by American Impressionist Gary Melchers. Now, Gary Melchers is a late 1800s Impressionist, and his paintings go from anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000 and up. But he was influential in the late 1800 Impressionist movement from the American Impressionists. Somehow, this painting made its way from America to this German Jewish family's home. And as the Germans were withdrawing, they stole this painting. In a heartwarming story, there's a huge, and this database is actually managed by AI within the FBI database of stolen and looted material and artwork from the Nazis. And so it came up that this painting had moved through time. The Nazis actually, somehow after the Nazi invasion, it moved through several owners and then ended up in a gallery in 1934 and sold to an American businessman, and it ended up in this businessman's museum until 2019 when it was discovered by this AI database that this was a looted piece of artwork. And they more graciously, of course, returned the painting. And in a reparations ceremony that was heartwarming, the rightful heirs finally received that painting. So let me actually share this. It's a piece of their familial history. And the average Americans don't have many heirlooms these days, right? Like, when was the last time you actually checked in on the heirlooms of your family and thought, well, there's an heirloom? We don't have much of that. So I find it very intriguing that something that's been around for over 100 years now ended up with the right family. So there's to a painting be returned to the rightful owners and reparations being made. And last but not least, in other news, AI, the AI invasion. Grant, quit talking about AI. Would you please leave me be, son? The AI invasion is coming to your ears. That's right. So one of the many places that AI has not really made too many improvements yet is with hearing and with hearing aids. And we know that with things like Neuralink, hearing might become a thing of the past until Elon gets his job, his stuff together for AI and hearing and Neuralink. In short, a company by the name of Whisper is using AI to filter out background noise for the hard of hearing, to intuitively know or learn when that the listener is actually struggling to hear through inflections in their voice, body language, different items like that, and assessing that when it needs to take in sound from the outside, turn the volume up and amplify that voice, or even use the AI assistant voice to jump in and fill in the gaps to the listener, even if it's delayed. So hearing aids are getting mega smart, mega interesting, and the roadmap from the Whisper company is amazing. And what's really amazing is not only that AI can perceive the sounds, interpret the sounds, and deliver it in a useful way, but think about how fast that has to occur in the background. Think about cloud computing and how all of this sound goes through the ear, Bluetooth to a cell phone or to a Wi-Fi connection, up to the interweb. The information gets gathered up, synthesized, analyzed, sent back down to the Bluetooth or Wi-Fi connection, back to the earbud, and that happened in microseconds, that the listener gets useful assistance in hearing. I think it's huge, man. And we're going to see mega leaps like this in so many facets of our life, which leads us to our lesson of the day. That is other news. Let's talk about the impending doom of an accelerated marketplace. Not really. And the mental models that I think you could really benefit from on this Fun with Thinking Friday. Here we go. On this Fun with Thinking Friday, let's drop down here. Got to drop my notes. So we've talked to the nth degree about the marketplace accelerating rapidly. And this accelerating marketplace, as it's picking up speed, we're trying to be leaders in our small business, in our dreams, in our nonprofits, and how to actually lead in a time like this when people can start to feel lost, especially coming out of the COVID fog. A lot of people feel lost. So things are changing quickly, and my suggestion is disrupt yourself before disruption happens to you. I even said this to our team yesterday at our quarterly meeting. We have to, the website team, we have to disrupt ourselves before AI web builders happen. And we're going to do that. We're going to start seeding the market. Brandon had a fantastic idea about contextualizing the conversation. Let's own the conversation about artificial intelligence web builders. Let's own that conversation in our spheres of influence so that when it happens, people go, hey, let's talk to these guys because they know what's going on. Disrupt yourself before disruption happens to you. So no, I'm not saying you necessarily need to go from your, current career as an admin assistant and mega leap to being a computer engineer. I'm not saying that. Well, that wouldn't be bad, right? Like that would be great. Marissa's studying how to build apps. That would be fun. But I'm not necessarily saying that you have to do that. But I am saying that you need to find ways to disrupt yourself. And we're going to actually talk about how to disrupt yourself. But compound this problem of this accelerated marketplace and this need for us to disrupt ourselves with too many options. So how disruption used to happen was, before the internet, if you can remember this, I can remember the first time I logged on, roughly in 1994 and perused the internet. And then I remember the first AOL CD I had. Before you could search websites and search the web, you actually had to pay attention to the news, to catch trends and to catch signs of, hey, disruption is coming. And so before all of the connected world that we have today, you would have, let's just say a construction company or let's say a marketing company, and you would have to go out into the world and get the news. So you would get the news from the Hong Kong newspaper. You would get the news from the London Times. You would get the news from Australia. And you would hope that this news would arrive to you that day or the next day or in the Investor's Business Daily, and you tear through the articles and you'd read through all these articles and you try to gain insights before your competitors can gain insights. Now, they also got that same very limited news structure. It wasn't too nuanced, and they were reading through and interpreting these things. Maybe you subscribe to a newspaper that no one else had subscriptions to. And then when you could see the sign of the times, you could interpret this and then meet with your team, and over a 2-year cycle, maybe phase out old products and phase in new products. Maybe disrupt yourself. Today, that's happening so quickly. It's happening so quickly. And so this compounding is happening where, we're trying to disrupt ourselves, but now there's too many options. Now the equation of, I have so many newspapers. Grant, forget that. I have 1,000 feeds. So now the question is, what do we listen to? So not only do we have this compounded problem of the speed of things and knowing we need to change. Grant, I'm convinced I need to change. Let's move on. Now we have too many options for how to make the right decisions. Today's 2 mental models are centered around answering, basically, am I being disrupted? Let's look at that. And I want to give you a quick tool. We're not going to spend a lot of time on the first tool. We're going to spend a lot of time on the second tool. And the second tool is basically how to know what is leveraged. It's one of many tools. So when you use mental models, they often talk about a lattice work. That's the phrase used in mental models. It's a lattice work because as you gain mental models, you start to combine mental models. You rarely use a single mental model to solve a problem. You normally use a lattice work of of problems. For example, when Elon Musk was deciding to do SpaceX, he used an initial mental model, and that was first principles. What are the first principles of rocketry? And then from first principles, he combined from first principles, then there's also a confirmation bias. What is the confirmation bias current rocketeers have? And confirmation bias simply says, I believe X about rocketry, so I'm going to look for X. And then so rockets cost $4 billion was NASA's idea. And so every time they looked into doing the next rocket, their confirmation bias blinded them to other options. When Elon Musk combined confirmation bias with first principles thinking, he realized he could do it much cheaper. That's an example of the lattice work of mental models. So today, how we're going to solve this accelerated marketplace with too many options. We're going to cover 2 mental models: creative destruction and what's known as mechanical advantage, or AKA Archimedes advantage, or basically what you know to be the lever. So let's cover these 2 things very quickly, and then I'm going to give you, some quick homework on how you can go away and apply the Archimedes advantage to filter through all the options out there, filter through them quickly, and make a decision so that you can disrupt yourself, because disruption has to happen. So let's just cover these 2 mental models. Mental model number 1, creative destruction. What is it? Creative destruction actually started as an economic theory. So Karl Marx wrote a lot, obviously, about socialism and capitalism. And he claimed that capitalism is flawed because as capital flows from basically, capital is supposed to flow from one component to the next. It's called the space of flows. So capital is with the horse and buggy, and then someone invents the car, and consumers are like, dang, that car looks freaking awesome. And their capital begins to flow to the car maker, Henry Ford, and now money is not flowing to the horse and buggy, so there's no incentive for innovation. So capital flows. It flows from horse and buggy to the car, and that creates what's known as a space of flows. Basically, that industry is going out of style. The buggy whip is like gone, right? Horses are still in play, but the incentives are different. You get it. So Karl Marx says that's a flaw of capitalism. Meanwhile, capitalists are like, that's the advantage of capitalism. That's awesome because basically, even though there's always an elite class, who is in that class could change at any moment. Capitalism doesn't claim in any way to get rid of classes. Capitalism claims to give the opportunity that anyone can be in that class. So Karl Marx threw this idea out there and says, hey, I'm an economist and capitalism stinks for one of many reasons, but this idea of capital flow is one of them. Schumpeter goes, hey man, that's an awesome idea. Let's expound. And Schumpeter comes along as an economist and says, this is what we need. We need creative destruction. Because cash flows from one situation to the next, that means Companies, if that horse and buggy company could have only seen the writing on the wall, disrupted itself, and maybe it got rid of horses, maybe the company was like Horse and Buggies Inc., maybe the company could have shifted and said Horse Therapy Inc. or Motorized Buggies Inc. and pivoted earlier and disrupted itself, phased out the product of horse-driven buggies and phased in the product of motorized buggies and gotten ahead of the curve. This is Schumpeter's idea that you should disrupt yourself before it happens to you. This concept moved on to authors Richard Nolan and David Croson, and they wrote a book in the 90s that basically outlined the 6 steps of self-disruption. Now, here's the thing. You don't have to take notes. I'm going to cover these quickly. I am literally just going to bullet point them. You don't need to take notes because on another day, we should actually zero in and do a small micro teaching on what the 6 phases of self-disruption are. Because as a small business owner, hear me on this. As a small business owner, you need to disrupt yourself. You'll either get disrupted or you'll need to disrupt yourself. These cycles used to happen every 15 to 20 years or more. Now they're happening about every 15 to 20 months, about 18 months. You need to disrupt yourself. Our team yesterday met on our quarterly meeting to talk about how are we going to give ourselves a chance by disrupting ourselves. We have to have that conversation. Here's the quick steps. You don't have to write these down. It's not critical to understanding the mental model, but here we go. Number 1, they said in the 90s, downsize yourself forcefully. Basically, get rid of 30 to 50% of your workforce because labor is the highest line item. If you get rid of a third to a half of your workforce, it will create strain on the company because you won't be able to perform with such a low labor. But B, it increases your cash injection. Now, I am not a big fan of just downsizing, right? That's not my plan, but this is what they taught. You downsize and you create a large amount of capital and cash. Then you put that cash into seeking dynamic balance. Develop a balance between stakeholders' ROI and internal wages. So basically, you still got to return a higher ROI to your stakeholders, but you also got to keep everybody well paid because they're going to go through it for a little while as you transition. Number 3, develop a market strategy. So basically, come up with new products, new quality instead of quantity. Normally, a company gets really big or it gets strong. It's focused on volume. Then you've got to pare down the labor. You get a cash injection. You seek some balance for a moment. And then you develop a new strategy focusing on new quality. So you've scaled down, not scaled up. You've scaled down. You focused on quality, but as a baseline. Then you become customer driven. So instead of, I'm going to make this thing that I think you want and try to sell you, instead of that, you spend a season learning feedback from the new customer in the new world. Number 5, you develop a market foreclosure strategy. How we diminish these products and add new products based on the market feedback. And number 6, then you scale. You know, they used to take, like I said, 5 or 10 years to shape these plans, 10 or 15 years to roll them out. You need to do this about every 18 months right now. And this is why AI is so important, because if you have a business driven on AI, actually, the AI can be doing this at a much more rapid iteration. We were doing it probably on a quarterly basis, having similar conversations in our company. That is the mental model of creative destruction. You don't have to know those 6 points. Calm down. All you need to know is that there is a process by which you need to look at the market and go, am I going to be relevant in 18 months? Are you involved in your market? Are you researching? Well, let's take the next step here, because the next step is this 2-for-1 mental model day. The second mental model is the mental model I really want to share with you, and that's mechanical advantage. Good morning, Jessica. Thanks for liking the show. I hope you're doing great this morning. Thanks for checking in. So mechanical advantage, or what I call Archimedes advantage, it's simply this: give me a lever long enough and tell me where to stand, or a stick long enough and a lever big enough, and I'll move the world, right? This idea that a machine or a system can do leveraged work. Here is the mindset. So let's take competitive advantage and put it over here, and let's look at mechanical advantage. Mechanical advantage is simply this. Like, there's a formula for it. It's a physics thing. It's a machine thing. Here's all you need to know: how much your personal impact is amplified with a given tool. So you know disruption is coming. I'm sold. You know you have to creatively destroy yourself. You're sold, right? You get it. Mechanical advantage kicks in when you have too many options now. So I want to give you a case in point on how to apply this, Good morning, Jessica. Coffee and sunshine. You're not joking. Coffee together. I love having coffee with you guys. I'll have coffee with Marissa later, but I'm having coffee with you now. Here we go. So I want to give you a case in point on how this applies. Let's say you know that you need to improve your marketing. You're a small business owner. You're a 1 or 3 person operation. Maybe it's you paid and like 2 volunteers or something, 2 interns or 2 part-timers. And you know you need to start marketing. And you've got a good product. We're not going to innovate on the product arena. We're just going to innovate the marketing. This is our case in point. So you suddenly go, okay, I need to disrupt myself. So maybe I'll look for marketing tools. I'll look at Sendable, which is a great marketing tool. I think I might need some AI. Grant's talking a lot about AI, and I saw this ad for this tool that would use artificial intelligence to generate content because I'm too busy. I'm just way too busy to create content. Content takes a lot of time. So Hello Woofy is a great tool. It looks like it's a great tool. The price point's fine. But then I'm also thinking about hiring a part-timer, like an actual in-house part-timer. And then the 4th option, I'm going to outsource. So these are your options. Here's where mechanical advantage as a mental model helps. You start right away utilizing this mental model and you go, okay, I'm zeroed in on marketing. I've got these options, but I don't know what to decide. Mechanical advantage says how much your impact is amplified with a given tool. So this is like a pulley, right? I can't lift this thing, but if I stick enough pulleys on it, I might be able to lift that thing. That's how mechanical advantage works. And in this example of marketing, you're going, okay, I'm only good for doing 1 post a month. I'm just too busy selling my company, delivering my product. I'm just too busy. So I can do 1 post a month. Okay, if I get Sendable, will Sendable allow me to do more than 1 post a month? Well, if you look at Sendable, no. Sendable does all these cool marketing automations and it gives you all this cool feedback and it percolates all this good content. But you still have to sit down, capture the content, write a blog post. It also distributes it in multiple places. You connect Instagram, you connect LinkedIn, you connect Twitter. It does all of these cool things. And all this promise of Sendable, it doesn't actually make it so that, here's mechanical advantage. It doesn't make it so that my impact is amplified. Now, it does amplify it across networks, but in terms of marketing, you'd rather go deep with one social network or one channel instead of going wide and shallow in a bunch of them. How are you going to respond to comments on YouTube, comments on Facebook, comments on Instagram? Man, that is why most small business owners aren't marketing. It's too wide. We'll go deep in one platform. Sendable cannot help you go deep in one platform. It can help you go wide and shallow. So from using mechanical advantage as a mental model, you can get rid of Sendable. Hello Woofy talks about artificial intelligence. Man, maybe it can amplify my work with this given tool. So I'm going to pay this money and not a lot of money, get Hello Woofy, and artificial intelligence kicks in and it's going to start percolating. It does all of these things. And the hope was that it would actually be an artificial intelligent assistant that actually writes additional posts for you. All you have to do is, instead of writing your 1 post a month, you take that hour and actually do a lot of inputs, and then the AI writes a lot of blog posts. But it doesn't do that. It uses AI to search for stuff that you prefer, but you still have to, just like Sendable, sit down, write down all this content, and then it distributes it wide and shallow, not necessarily deep. So Hello Woofy, did I amplify the impact I was making? Nope. Hiring or outsourcing? Well, hiring, I really can't afford to hire someone, so hiring is out. So here we are in outsourcing. Can I hire someone for 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week? 5 hours a week only costs you about $100 a week going with 24/7 VA, and you can hire a social media specialist. And you can tell them, just focus on Facebook. And here's the brand parameters in 1 hour a week. 1 hour a week that I was doing posts, I'll approve all of your posts, but you can post 10 or 20. Using the mental model of mechanical advantage. In this short period of time, you've gone through option, and instead of chasing down another app, which, hey, it's really affordable, but does it actually amplify you like a pulley? Hiring's out of the question. We've narrowed our scope very quickly. We've realized, wow, for $100 a week or some version, go find Teresa O'Brien of Help Her and hire someone once a month for 4 hours. It's 4 hours more than you had, and it's someone who's skilled, and it's amplified. So here's the quick summary. Number one, determine what to disrupt in your business. Just assume you have to disrupt. Use the freedom framework from Spark called MSPBA. MSPBA, marketing, sales, production, bookkeeping, and admin. That's a freedom framework for how to shape your business. You should have systems in each. Look at them and ask yourself, what should I disrupt over the next quarter? What should I disrupt of myself over the next quarter? Maybe it's messaging and marketing like we just discussed. Maybe it's your sales process. Quite often it's your production, the offerings you have, or how you do those offerings. So the offerings you have is an external factor. How you do them. Maybe you use AI internally to actually leverage labor. Could be that. Bookkeeping, you rarely innovate, but you could if you need to jumpstart into profit first, talk to Spark Bookkeeping. Admin, you rarely need to innovate unless you could leverage AI in terms of touch points with the team, but that's going to be a while. It's usually marketing, sales, or production that you really need to be disrupting yourself. Disrupt yourself. Number two, research your options. Gather options like we did with Sendable, Hello Woofy, hiring and outsourcing. Gather your options, but then number three, use mechanical advantage and say, okay, how much time am I spending and what am I getting? I'm spending an hour a month and I'm getting 1 post a month. Can I spend an hour a month and go deeper and get 2, 3, or 5 posts? And can I go deep in my market? So you actually have to then start doing some calculating. And then when you look at your options, in this example, Sendable, Hello Woofy, hiring and outsourcing, what leverage do I get in the same vein? And is it amplified? Let's pause. Sometimes amplification is going wide, not deep. You have to know your parameters. And mechanical advantage, aka the Archimedes advantage, isn't the only rubric. But you can see how wielding mechanical advantage lets you ask yourself and filter down the options and limit the options so you're getting right into the meat and potatoes of which of these options are right for me right now, given this moment. So first off, creative destruction, disrupt yourself. If that's the only thing you hear today, you've got to hear that. Good morning, Terry. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for checking in. You've got to disrupt yourself, how you're doing marketing, how you're doing sales, how you're producing or delivering your product or service. And then the second one, whip in mechanical advantage very quickly to start paring down the vast amount of options to fewer, and then go deep with those options and analyze those. Hey, listen. I hope that you learned something new. I hope you have new mental tools. I'd love to hear how you're applying these mental tools in the comments. Let's carry this conversation over to the Facebook Goals and Gratitude group, man. That's where we're actually stirring up more and more of this conversation to make you better. Why? For the mission this weekend. Igniting lives of explosive significance. Will you take that mission with me? Share this video with someone who needs to take their business to the next level, who might be stuck in their thinking. Share this video with them. I would be honored. Tell me how I can serve you. And we will have free coaching sessions opening up starting next week. The only caveat is that you allow yourself to be coached on video, and we're going to be sharing those in the Facebook Goal and Gratitude group. So if you need small business coaching, if you need personal development coaching, and you're open and you want a free coaching session, reach out. We'll get you in line for some of those slots that'll be opening up, just to show people what the benefit of coaching is and to hopefully take you to the next level. So visit us at stateofthespark.com. You can see that right here. Boom, stateofthespark.com. If you need any assistance at all, that's kind of the hub of the Spark universe. And if you want to get coaching, reach out to me. Again, remember the mission, igniting lives of explosive significance. But please start with your own. Have a great day and let us know how we can serve you.